Jack, which was raised over Hawaii for 5 months during the occupation, was ceremoniously lowered, and the high Hawaii was raised. And thousands wept, they cried, they sang. They were joyous about the return of Hawaiian sovereignty. And on that day was established the famous motto of Hawaii and became the nation's motto. Ua mau ke ea o ka āina I ka PONO. Can we say it together? Ua mau ke ea o ka āina I ka PONO. One more time, make it feel good. Ua mau ke ea o ka āina I ka PONO. How many of you guys have heard this before? My favorite song. Many of us know this as the life of the land is perpetuated righteousness, but today, as an educator, I'm here to sort of unravel that just a little bit more. To look at the political history in association with what happened over 182 years ago when Lord George Paulette and Admiral Richard Thomas and the return of Hawaiian sovereignty. Ua Ea talks about not just a life, talks about our right to rule as a kingdom. And in 1843, as we all know, the Hawaiian kingdom accomplished something that no other non-European country had done, which has become recognized by the most powerful naval forces in the world. And we became the first non-European nation in the world. And you know what we did? We recognized other non-European nations as well too. Anybody heard of Japan? Anybody heard of Turkey? Well, these are important nations that Hawaii became active members and exercised their agency. We weren't just sitting in the bleachers. We had 90 consulates around the world. We were a part of this global network, if you would. And so today, we've been separated from that. But we are putting the pieces back together to restore our lois. Our lois have been overgrown with invasive trees, abandoned. But when we come back, we see that everything that was once strong and thriving is still right there. All we need to do is go back to it. And so that's what we're doing here today, go back to our history, to put our hands to the soil, to overturn and to rebuild and to restack, and to remember who we are as a Hawaiian people, who we are as a Hawaiian nation. On behalf of Ea, I want to welcome everybody here tonight, but I also want to send a special invitation to you on July 27th at Thomas Square, a few blocks away, at the site of, I'm all turned around here. At the site of the original Hawaiian sovereignty restoration on July 31st, 1843, returned to the site. It became called and named thereafter in honor of Admiral Richard Thomas, and it carries that name today, Admiral Richard Thomas Square Park. It's the first national monument by Kauikeaoli Kamehameha III. Before there was a Iulani Palace, there was Thomas Square. Before there was Mauna Ala, there was Thomas Square. And so these things become important. These things become important for us to understand that as we begin to remember our history, our language, our culture, we also must remember our national identity as well. And so we're here to remember the full story, and we're here to honor a very important member of our community, which we are very honored to have been able to elevate many in our community. But today we're very honored, and we're going to bring him up to play some music along with our special guest. Please give me a round of applause and introduce and welcome our special guest, 2025 Ea Honoree, Uncle Liko Martin. I'm also going to bring up to play some music just to get the kind of mood going. Also, please welcome Leon Siu, who has been active in the international realm, advocating on behalf of the Hawaiian Kingdom. So, big round of applause here, Honolulu. Let's welcome our musicians now, and we'll get started.
Aloha, everyone. My thoughts go back to this song, back to 1897, and when Queen Iulai made her way to Washington, D.C. to file a letter of protest at the State Department, which in the modern time, when you're looking at it, it basically she laid out what the ramifications were and the things that would occur because of what happened in January 17, 1893. I happened to be in Washington, D.C. for the court case with OHA and the state of Hawaii. And it was pretty dramatic going there and filing an intervention paper on behalf of Albert Ha, who was a descendant of Kamehameha III, on their behalf, and to witness the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court, you know, hundreds of years of jurisprudence. And the situation that occurred there was that the case that was presented before the Supreme Court of the United States was not quite clear to them, and they reflected that in their opinion. What was the state doing there? What was the left hand doing with the right hand? To try to see if the Supreme Court would say that the apology resolution was enough to sanitize what happened in 1893. They did not rule in favor. In fact, they didn't even take up the question. One outstanding thing that the Supreme Court ruled was that they have no jurisdiction in Hawaiian law. And that says a whole lot. So in that time, I was in Virginia, I imagined Queen Liliuokalani being there. And these words to this song started coming. I imagined it, and it actually snowed in Virginia. And when I got back to Honolulu, a couple months later, the Department of Interior showed up. Just after I had completed writing this song, which is called the Red Ribbon song. Red Ribbon's referring to the authentication that occurs at the archives when you get an original document. And then, and we played that song before the Department of Interior. And if any of you remember, that was quite a momentous event for Hawaiians across all of the islands. They were ready for the kingdom. They weren't ready for anything else other than that. So from that time till now, from 1897, June 17th is the date of the letter. In 2016, I had been called by Laulani Teal, who for the last 10 years I call her, she's the squadron commander. And through her eyes and through her ears and her associations, I've been able to wander freely through all of the different movements and give my talents as a writer, not necessarily in songs, but in briefs before courts, in letters to the United Nations, filing documents. I've been really loving my work, putting the story in this context of a song. So I'll play this song. At the Capitol, we played this song and kind of brought the house down. We got on national TV that day. Hawaiians ask, "Where's our kingdom?" You know? So a song can go a long way. Sometimes it says things that, you know. a woman's love saved us from the fire, told her people standing down would mean their survival, climbing down from her throne. Aloha oi to the choir, took a train across America to lay our story down. And to the people of America, she prayed that they would find inspiration and heart's compassion of the peace of all mankind, to lift the curse that's held us under wars of wanting for profit and plunder. Behind the truth and clouds thereunder, prisons full of sons and daughters, red ribbons dangling from her hair, red ribbons, I can see them everywhere. Red ribbons, won't you take me there? Oh, red ribbons everywhere. She did stand upon this land, at home on the range, where few have heard her prophetic words and message that she gave, that one day she would rise again, sons and daughters of Hawaiian, and there'll be red ribbons everywhere. If you want to sing along, you can. Red ribbons, dangling from her hair, red ribbons, I can see them everywhere. Won't you take me there? Red ribbons everywhere. She wanted safety for her people, shelter from the storm, wanted to protect the land from the hands of the greedy horde, and through the snow and icy embers, up the stairs to see if justice lives there, for those red ribbons that she wore. Red dangling from her hair, red ribbons, I can see them everywhere. Red ribbons, won't you take me there? Oh, red ribbons everywhere. There'll be red ribbons everywhere. what she left for us to follow. And I'd like to, just a short song during the discussions today. I will actually elaborate a little bit on that document, which in 2016 we went to Washington, D.C. Didn't even have a copy of the document, and I had a dream that morning. We were heading to the Federal Archives, and then being a typist in school, I had a little Pica typewriter, and in the dream I saw the type, and we went to the archives, and the head lady there, she says, "Sir, do you realize how many documents we have?" I said, "Well, maybe you could just give me the files, and I'll look at it." So we put it on the scroll, and the first scroll, and up it popped. You had a bunch of them authenticated, and then with the assistance and courtesy of Mazie Hirono, who I actually ran for lieutenant governor when she did, it was kind of it was kind of a suicide. Because all I really wanted to say was bring up the apology debate on October 27th when it was brought to the floor that, senators were wondering where this was leading, where was it going, what's wrong? Why do we have to make an apology? And Senator Inouye rose up and said, "Well, let me assure my colleagues. From the debate, we've been in this debate since statehood, whether or not Native Hawaiians are Native Americans. So this is a quintessential question at the table. And so anyway, we filed the letter. And I want to introduce now a friend of mine from way back, before I actually wrote the music for a song that became known as Waimanalo Blues, originally written as Nanakuli Blues. And that's how I met my friend Leon and Malia. And we played music, and we've enjoyed many concerts together. And in the context of our songs, we're that we've ended up doing this political, I don't know what it is. It's kind of, we're just the bars singing of the stars. But anyway, Leon, I'd like to share a song, a beautiful song that I really love. And I don't know if you've seen Leon and Maria before. Many children grew up to them. So Leon, you can come and sing the song. Yeah. Go ahead. He just came back. Leon has been very active on the international scene in Geneva, and even more fundamentally, he has been amongst the peoples of Polynesia, and sharing our story and hearing theirs. And so Leon's going to play one of my favorite songs.
I gotta tell you, when Liko called and asked if I would come and share, I said, yeah, right away. I said, this is something that we go, as Liko said, we go way back. 1968, I had completed 2 years of college at the University of Hawaii in Hilo, because it was only a 2-year campus at the time. And so I had to move to Oahu to continue my education. So the first day I'm on Oahu, I'm walking down Kalakaua Avenue with my suitcase and my guitar. That old suitcase and guitar in hand from the Paul Simon's song. Anyway, so I've got my suitcase and my guitar, and walking down, and this guy is sitting on the side under a coconut tree. At that time, where the Royal Hawaiian Shopping Center is now, used to be kind of a grassy area, and there were some small shops along the way. And so there were these nice palm trees with grass around it. So my friend this person was sitting there, and he looked at my guitar and said, "Hey, brother, can you play that thing?" I said, "All right, sure." So I sat down, played a few songs, and then he asked, "Well, where are you headed?" I said, "Well, I'm going to look for a place to stay." He said, "Well, come stay with me." And I said, "Oh, great, okay." And the person's name is Hank Ferguson. Some of you know Hank as one of those intrepid activists, and just an amazing person. So we got to be really good friends. So 2 days later, we get invited to a party at the end of Kalakaua Avenue at the foot of Diamond Head. So we go to the party, I take my guitar along, playing some music, And in walks this other guy with a guitar that looks just like mine, and it's Liko. So the first day I'm there, I meet Hank Ferguson. 2 days later, I meet Liko, and we've been fast friends ever since, and gone to lots and lots of interesting and some mischievous, but mostly amazing experiences that we've had together. As I started playing in Waikiki, then Malia and I became much more well known, and so we began to be asked to play at different things, like a rally to save Kalama Valley. Liko was there too, and so we'd be playing at these events and people getting arrested and stuff, and then we would have these concerts in support of that. So Waiahole Waikami, Protect Kaho'olawe, all of these causes called for musicians to show up. So that's how we got involved. Just sort of like rubbing shoulders with the real activists who were on the ground, fighting for our rights. So anyway, so that's our start. And I just really, back in 1972, I think, yes, but 72. Well, Liko wrote Waimanalo Blues or Nalakuli Blues in 1970.
Well, a friend of ours, Thor Wool.
Thor Wool.
One day we were in Kaiwaki.
Thor and I were high school classmates in Hilo.
And Thor says, well, let's go take a ride to Kaena Point.
Yeah.
And so we ride out to Kaena Point, and I didn't know Thor, but Thor was really a poet. He grew up on the Big Island. His father was the head forester. He graded the wood at the mill in Hilo. And then he goes back and he sends me the words of Nanakuri Blues. He says, with a lot of soul. So it's got two sets of music. One's like really rock and roll and everything. And then the song words went to country. Waimanalo, the boys did an amazing rendition, and of course it became Waimanalo Blues. And hats off to them. We were just in Waimanalo last night with Bumpy and all of the clan up there who have done tremendous work to rebuild their lives and build their houses with basically hand-to-hand combat with their saws and picks and stuff. And to see them there and happy and off the street and able to take care of themselves was really heartwarming to see them.
Yeah. So there are many interwoven stories, because the producer of that Country Comfort album was a friend of mine who was from Hawaii originally, went out to Los Angeles, became a very famous musician, folk musician, and then became a producer. So he produced Country Comfort song. Anyway, but we used to hang out in Los Angeles together. So I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles in the music industry and in the film industry for about 10 years, actually. Going back and forth, coming back, playing protest music, singing in nightclubs and all that, but going back to Los Angeles and working in the recording industry. So anyway, so the song that Niko's referring to is a song that I wrote in 1972. At the time, Liko and Jerry Santos and Malia and I were doing occasional gigs here together. And of course, Jerry wrote some amazing stuff. And this is one of the songs. We kind of crossed, some of our work kind of fed together. So at the same time, we both came up with this term, concrete castles, looking around at the hotels that were being built. Of course, as you know, after statehood, there was an explosion in hotel building, and there were construction cranes all over the place, and all these high-rises were going up. So somehow, he and I both heard the phrase concrete castles. So he included that in one of his songs, and I wrote that in this song called Concrete Castles. And I haven't played in months, so we're traveling. Proudly stand the concrete castles, 400 feet in the air. Could it be the kings can see farther than you or me? Through the valley runs the road, a thoroughfare to destiny. Land lay there with thorough care. Indeed, indeed, a thoroughfare. By the way, the lyrics of the song has to do with events that are going on at the time. So that particular verse has to do with H3 being built. The early stages, and we were able to stall that for 30 years before it was built. And it's going to be a long, hard road to get home. Taking waters from the windward side to central Oahu. And it's going to be a long, hard road to get home to my island. Going to be a long, hard road to get home.
Take all my papers?
No, we're just gonna talk short kind, because we have a really, this is the,
Okay.
well,
Okay.
I
had to say to the kupuna that this is the 7-Eleven version of all of the mana'o that they have to share. So we should have a supermarket version where we can actually hear how much they have. But right now, we're just doing the short version. So if everybody can look at that QR code right there, definitely check out the resources that are on there. It's a lot of Liko's documents, and there are some of Leon's that you sent to Imai that I uploaded also to that QR code. Okay, so that way you can catch up on some of the things that they need to discuss.
Okay, Lana is going to be the moderator.
Thank you so much for letting me moderate, and I'm so sorry to have to cut short early.
Short and sweet. You're on.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad that both of you actually covered a lot of what I was going to ask in my first question, and I wonder if you can each elaborate a little bit more on it. Here you are, two of our nation's greatest musicians, I'm going to say, for a long time. And both of you went from doing this musical work into doing actual international work and work directly for our nation in the legal frameworks of many kinds. How exactly do you see your music flowing with that work that you took on? And I guess I'll start with Liko.
Well, as you heard the Red Ribbon story, to actually find out last year that my great-grandmother was arrested and imprisoned in Iulani Palace behind that white curtain for allegedly smuggling guns in the Hawaiian banana stumps was really brought it home for me. Growing up on the beaches of at the foot of Diamond Head and in this building where my mother retired as a clerk for the family court, and my grandfather and was a supervisor during the territorial days. So between Honolulu, Hale, and Kamehameha statue was my babysitter after school. And so I'm very familiar here in the days when the blind vendors were here. And so music, when I grew up, not being allowed to learn Hawaiian language, as pretty much everyone knows, and that's kind of a common thing that has occurred in indigenous peoples, people around the world, stripping them of their language. I grew up with music. At a very early age, I was passing out cards to get my grandfather elected. We'd wait till the middle of the night in City Hall for the votes to come in from a place called Miloli, a place from Kau'u, or a place from Kamakaka. I had no idea where these places were. And because of my family's connection. So that's pretty much where I've been, and I've kept it up. As I said, everything comes out like a song now. I really love my job. Daily, and I mean really daily, I keep up with how to put the story to inspire awareness, consciousness, and compassion, and for the environment and the people, all of the people of Hawaii. I grew up on the shores of Waikiki. There was no such thing. Everyone was treated equally, which is a reflection upon our neutrality, the essence of our kingdom and our people. Prior to January 17th, being that we are an actual neutral nation, inviolably, we still are. So just as an example, there's the things that we have to build out amongst ourselves. And of course, so that Hawaii can be more than just a place to come to visit, but a place where really people come to be together. And so Leon, I had asked Leon, I wanted to lead off the discussion because Leon has just gotten back from Geneva. He spent many months, so much of his life now traveling and weaving this humanity together. So Leon, if you would really, share with us things.
Okay. Yeah, I'm from the Big Island. Liko mentioned Iulai. He's been down to our family's home in our area down there. But I grew up in Iulai and in Ka'u, and then in Hilo. Went to school in Hilo. Was actually majored in fine arts, but also always played music because everybody in the neighborhood, literally everyone played music when I was growing up. Our elementary school had a ukulele band of elementary kids. Over 300 kids played ukulele in our ukulele band. So this was just part of the framework. So everybody played music. But when I moved to Oahu, I began, like I mentioned earlier, to become more interested in what was going on in our community and in society. At that time, of course, the Vietnam War was going on, and there was a lot of, and the culture was growing. Woodstock was about to happen, and so we were part of that whole time of sort of an awakening and a consciousness of our social responsibility to do something if we see something that's wrong. So that's how I was oriented musically, because a lot of the protest songs of the 60s in America really rang true. So I spent a lot of time in folk music and spent a lot of time interacting with people who were playing folk music here in Hawaii as well as elsewhere. So I got to meet quite a few prominent people over the years. Malia and I had a career going, and like I said, we spent a lot of time touring in California and the rest of the United States, across the United States, as well as spending a lot of time in the film industry and in the music industry in Los Angeles, doing music production and film and composing. So one of our adventures took us to London, where we recorded with the London Symphony Orchestra a piece we had written. And that's the only Hawaiian orchestral piece ever written, still. And we recorded that over 40 years ago with the London Symphony Orchestra. And we were also pioneers of digital recording. It was one of the first digital recordings ever made. It was before CDs were invented, so we couldn't actually play the music back in any form until CDs were invented 6 years later. And so, but anyway, we spent a lot of time in that kind of era. My really close friend was a guy who produced Woodstock. And he also produced The Voyage of the Hokulea, which is a film that I was involved in as well. So anyway, so in all this time, I was very interested. In 1993, the United States apologizes for the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom. And when I was like, wow, this is incredible. They apologize. That means the Hawaiian Kingdom is still here, it's still alive. Well, lo and behold, they apologized, but for some reason it didn't really mean anything. We couldn't make anything go. Anyway, a bunch of people started to form organizations or groups or governments and you talk about Bumpy. Bumpy was one of the first out of the gate, so to speak, in pressing this area. They basically said that they committed an error or they committed a crime in taking over our country. Therefore, our country still exists, therefore we should simply claim it back. So about a dozen different groups got started around that time. I have a list actually that shows there are 38 groups that had started over the years. Most of them are not around anymore. But some of them, many of them are still around. Many of the people are still around. So we started in earnest. I got hooked up with a group called Mokupuni on Hawaii, which decided that we were going to form the government since we have every right to do so. And they appointed me in the year 2000. The group appointed me as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So for 25 years, I've been the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I'm the only Minister of Foreign Affairs that actually attends to foreign affairs. That is, I travel, I interact, and all that. So it's been a real wonderful experience in that I learned over time that although the legal aspects are very important as far as understanding what happened to Hawaii and what our options are and things like that, it's really the other part of international relations that is more important, which is the diplomatic part. That is, there are two ways to approach a wrong that had been committed internationally. One is a legal avenue, which most people think about. You go and you sue them or you fight them in court and you get your way. The other way is diplomacy, where it's actually you enter into negotiations, you start talking things out, and you work things out, and you get more people involved, and that way it becomes more of a discussion rather than a confrontation, and rather than adversarial, you become actually people trying to work out a problem. So that's what I learned years ago when I first started going to these international places. Initially, I thought, well, we'll just go there, we'll tell them our story, and they'll all get all upset, or they'll team up with us, and they'll attend to what we need. But it doesn't happen that way. And I was told early on by the ambassador from Jamaica, I think 15 years ago, he said, you gotta remember one thing. Every ambassador who is here to look out for the best interest of his own country. So therefore, don't take decisions we make as if it's a decision made on the basis of the evidence or the whatever the issue is. He said, we're looking at our own country, so we have to make decisions knowing how or understanding how it might affect our own country. So we may have to make a decision that could be totally wrong in your eyes, but it's totally right for my country because we don't want to get involved. So this is what the clue was. And it opened up a whole new understanding of what happens in the area of international relations. And that is every country is looking out for their own good. And we have to know that. So therefore, if we're approaching a problem, let's say the United States is occupying the Hawaiian Kingdom, and we take our issue to the United Nations or to a country to say, will you please file a protest or make a statement against the United States occupation, or can a group of you please do this? They're not going to do it because they have to think of how it's going to affect them. And this is where the kind of stalemate is at the UN as far as getting anything done. And it takes a while to work out how you're going to get something done. So initially, when I started approaching the United Nations, I would ask them, or they would hear the story, and then they would say to me, wow, that's a really sad story. I wish you all the luck. Good luck in trying to get extricated from the U.S. A few years later, I would be with them again. I would be talking story and saying the same thing and still being very positive. And they would start to say, well, do you really think it could happen? Do you really think you can get away from the United States? And then, about 5 or 6 years later, they started to say, what do you think we can do to help? So now they're starting to think, maybe this can really happen and we might be able to help. This last trip I went to Geneva, several of them came up with plans or proposals saying, what do you think if we did this? Will this help? And I tell you, a couple of those proposals were really, really good. and we're on the verge of really making a major breakthrough within the next few months, I would say. So this is where we're going with this.
Thank you.
Let me, we're quickly, the time is going
Yeah,
pretty
right.
quickly. So again, this is the 7-Eleven version of such a big.
That wasn't something
Yeah.
The drive-through.
So my next question relating to that is, given these realities that people face on the diplomatic level and even on the state level, right? Here we are in the state Supreme Court building. So,
Hawaiian Kingdom Court.
which is the Hawaiian Kingdom Court, right, exactly. So given that we're in this illegal occupation, and people at this point, many people know that and understand that, but are in that same situation of not being feeling empowered to do anything about it because of how it would affect them or otherwise. What would your recommendations be, each of you, a short version, as to what people can do when they're within this occupation, and keeping in mind the judicial level, what can people do within this situation that we're in to make things better and move things toward what you're saying?
Oh my, I'm going to have to excuse myself to go to the restroom.
When we will have Liko answer first.
Okay. Well, I'm going to prep up to have some comments from what Leon, some of the work that he's done and provided. So in my world, growing up in these buildings and knowing how to type really good, from the 70s, I facilitated for community action programs. People need to fill out forms, need to put together. They'll be sitting at the table on Molokai talking about, oh, Bishop Bistain, we bring in all the kids here, and these are the so-called problem children. We don't know what to do with them. And I'm over there and I'm drawing out, oh man, I'm drawing out, a warehouse, and we're getting at nets and this and that. And for the most part, I've been told, well, not now, Liko. Not now. But that was many years ago. Now, those are the things that we need. So in my interaction, your question,
What can people do?
it depends where you are. Usually you're going to watch the news. Like 2 or 3 Fridays ago, when came on the news that the DLNR they refused to accept the federal EIS from the United States military. And about a month earlier, they refused another one at Pohakuloa. Hearing the news, people are probably stunned. They don't really know a lot of the details. Okay, and that seems pretty scary. For myself, because I like to get involved, I want to know, I'm a gardener. I grew up gardening. And to me, this is the most wonderful gardening project. And it's seasonal. It comes around just like a yard. By the time you come around the other side of the yard, you got to check how the grass is coming, how you're going to hold this one back. And actually in the context of how to move now, what do you do with this information? And it's very technical. And one of the things and I want to get back to Leon, okay, the work that he has done. One, he sent me a letter in 2018. It was written by a legal expert. His name was Alfred Desires. And it's a 3-page letter from a legal expert. Now, in 3 pages of an attorney, there's a lot in there. And in this letter, he flatly says, military occupation occurring, fraudulent annexation, and one of the main points that comes to mind when he says the plundering
by the judiciary of the United States and the state of Hawaii on the private lands that calls for not just an investigation, but an intervention immediately. That types of information has greatly facilitated and inspired me to dig deep, to look for how does that translate? How is this plundering occurring? So I get in there, and this is a yard project, so I'm going to look at it, I'm going to dig it up, and we're going to just totally tear it apart and get to the source of the problem. And so I mention this because that is one of the documents that I'm preparing for this event that has meant so much to me, Leon, and to everyone. When that comes from, because I filed, as an example, I'm in the middle of a recording studio in Maui, and I get a call from Auntie Dolly Hui. She says, Liko, do you know the Pai family over there in Honolulu on the Big Island? You know, this and that, I said, Auntie, send me what the Congress did, send me the legislation, and then send me the contract that they were coerced to sign. And when I saw that, I had come back from the United Nations after being invited by the Alaska delegation, when the Alaska Native Claims sort of settlement occurred, which is a whole other story, the suicide rate just went skyrocketing because in came the money, in came the drugs, and in came the marshals to tell them that you can't hunt caribou. So I was invited to go with them, actually went to the United Nations, entered the library through the courtesy of Dr. Noel Brown, who at that time was the Director of Environmental Programs, and saw what was submitted with respect to Hawaii. And there was, of course, they said they had annexation, so that's strike one. Okay, there was no annexation, and then they started, going down issues on land tenure. There's certain lands set aside for the Hawaiian people. Well, that's the Hawaiian homes. That's apartheid. And I sent these letters back to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And Uncle Monroy and Tamikui came to look for me, and I brought all the documents to Moku. That was a great day, a very rare day, because the question was, did we really lose anything? What's our program here? Can we really get going to do things? And so it was a wonderful day, but a rare day. So I just want to share, because I'm with Leon, because Leon was the one who sent me that letter. And it has so much of where we are now, the conditions in Hawaii with respect to January 23rd, Governor Green Declaration on Homelessness. I mean, it's utter destruction out there.
And to just a note, you can find the actual letter just on that QR code, so that would be very good.
Yeah.
Leon, so could
you elaborate on that?
yeah, and remember again, the question is, what can people do?
Right, okay. So just to fill out a little bit about Dr. Desaias, Alfred Desaias was one of the first people I met when I started going to Geneva, which was in 2008. And so we got to be good friends because he was advocating for decolonization, or actually for self-determination for nations and peoples. So Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, and all of these nations that should be recognized, but are being held back. So we met together at a place called at the Hale Wilson. Anyway, so he was advocating for Hawaii at the time, but didn't know that much about Hawaii. So we got to talking, and we spent a lot of time together and exchanging all that. So over the years, he and I have become very good friends, and I see him every time I'm in Geneva, and we exchange very often letters and emails. One of the things that happens in Geneva is that we get to speak on these panels, they call them side events, at the places like the Human Rights Council. And so he and I are often on the same panel. I have lots of pictures of him, both he and me on the same panel. And so we have a very healthy and frequent exchange. So I talked to him back in 2017 about the situation of the land. And I talked to him about a particular case. So I said, well, what do you think you can do about it? Can you help to support this person who's losing her land because of this, because of the state of Hawaii's misdirection and misappropriation of lands? So we sat down together and we actually worked on the letter together. Actually, it became a memorandum. It's technically not a letter. It's a memorandum to the courts, to the judges that were handling this particular case here in Hawaii. And it basically tells them that, hold on, you actually do not have the authority to rule on this case or to hear this case because Hawaii still is a nation under occupation, under a strange form of occupation, and that the laws of the Hawaiian Kingdom still should be applying here, not the laws of the United States. So he makes it really clear in that. And then the other memorandum we sent after that elaborates on that quite a bit. So this has been a memo that has been used many times with great success for people to at least hold off the judiciary of the state of Hawaii from continuing its plundering of our people.
People using the judiciary.
Right. Yes, right. So to get to your question about what we can do, the best thing we can do is to be very positive about the outcome of what's going to be happening. The Hawaiian Kingdom will return. And what we need to do, instead of continuing to complain or to fight at these things, is to make plans for the future. We have to start thinking of ourselves as a sovereign nation. We have to think of Hawaii as, and the decisions we have to make and the priorities we would have to put. So we need to think of what really is a nation. The nation is the people, right? It's to keep the people fed and to keep the people happy. That's basically what a nation is. And if we go to work on that, you're talking about gardening and all that, we need to bring back our agriculture. We need to be able to feed ourselves. If we can't feed ourselves, we're not independent. If we can't provide our own energy, we're not independent. If we can't take care of our own environment, we're not independent. So we need to start thinking in terms of how do we live. And of course, our ancestors had all the answers to that. What we need to do is look at what they did and how they acted responsibly in taking care of the āINA so that the āINA takes care of them. We get back to that attitude, we take care of one another, and we put every people first in our considerations, in our lives. Then we're doing it well and good.
So we're supposed to move into questions and answers right now, but I can see that you really want to add something, so.
Just one of all the circumstances that I've been involved in, what stands out, one incident stands out the most that buttresses what Alfred Desaias, Professor Desaias has laid out. It buttresses the time when we were still under the United Nations. Okay? And an event that took place in 1955 when there was a consolidation of things Hawaiian, they called it Hawaiian. The revised laws of 1955, Volume 1, Chapter 14, entitled Certain Rights of the People, Hawaiian. Now this is in 1955. So in 2000, the year 2002, I'm on Kauai. And the developer, LLC, EWM out of Las Vegas, says that they're going to come and take 400 acres, they're going to take Lihue, and they're going to develop whatever they're going to develop. So some friends of mine called me, and they're, very, very old school. The tarot, get their horses and everything. They're not political at all, but we filed some documents because it was a large event, large development. We filed a letter before what was called the Historic Preservation Review Commission. Not knowing where this commission came from, where its authorities were at all. To our surprise, the unclassified memorandum that came from the Kauai Historic Preservation to the Planning Department to inform Walton Hall, who was representing the EWM, was that it's very specific. It said you must resolve issues of title, you must protect the Ahupua lifestyle, you must consult with the acting Konahiki, you must respect all of the trails and paths. It was a dictate. Where that came from at that time, I have no idea. But the force of that stopped that project. It still proceeded, but with a lot more of those considerations.
That's a really good example of using something within the illegal system in order to move forward out of this. We need to move into question and answer, but I do want to just ask you all really quick if I can. Okay, so here we are in 2025, right? And just to kind of give a brief, I think most people know that the annexation in 1898 was not legal, not only because it didn't pass Congress, but also because there was no treaty. And the 1959 vote was similarly not correct. And the United Nations removal of Hawaii from its list of non-self-governing territories that could be set free was also incorrect. So given all of these incorrect things that have happened, right? And given I've heard that you both mentioned us being a neutral country under an illegal occupation. So what do you see as the way that we can just, as you know, I know it's hard to say in a short time, but what do you see as a way that we, in manifesting that neutral country, being that neutral country again, will have that effect? What will move us into that so that we can be that for the world? What does that mean?
Process.
Yeah.
It's about the process. And the process that I particularly have, because it's like every document that I write, it's got to come out like a song. That's the thing with being a songwriter and a gardener. So, and I'm working, one friend of mine told me, he says, Liko, sometimes it's all in the presentation. He's a cook. And sometimes it is in the presentation, because we still have that one can of sardines, we get the onion over here, and we just only have so much ingredients to work with. Whatever comes to you. For me, in recent time, 1893, we filed the letters. That's an issue, international issue. Working backwards, right now, the questions about the intent of the apology resolution. Was it genuine or was it not? And so that's where I am, and I'm to the point where I filed letters in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, very extensive letters, also requesting oversight before the House Committee on Oversight, all the way back to Mauna Kea, when Elijah Cummings was still there as chairman,
And so there's different process. Under the law of nations, under the United States Constitution, there is process there when you're going to engage with congresses and conferences. Okay. So that's one of the ways in which I am proceeding specifically to get to the root of the story. Okay, because of the situation and the conditions on the ground. The conditions on the ground, in the garden, require in-depth understanding, a lot of compassion, because the conditions on the ground are horrific. Okay. As an example, 2 days ago, day before yesterday, I'm filing for a first EIS for a development on Kapa'a in Hawai. Most people don't know the entire Ahupua of Kapa'a are the Crown lands. What were they doing in the auction of 1900? What is this developer doing? What does he know? What does he know or knows and does not want to come to the forefront? So this is how I get engaged, by getting involved. I'm a part of the, they'll have to contact me because I actually talk. So those are ways in which you get involved. My phone is like a 911. And fortunately, there are other people who are concerned, especially when it comes to environment. And only recently I have the support of attorneys, and a lot of that. So that's what you do, and I've posted a huge volume of documents. Today, a lot of us going, she calls it like a 7-Eleven store. I said, it's like watching a World War II movie, and you're getting ready to invade an island, and then you see the destroyers and the battleships, and they're just firing their guns. That's what is on these files. All kinds of references, great information of Supreme Court cases, Rice versus Cayetano, recommendations from the United States Commission on Human Rights saying we're entitled to international solutions. These are things that were there. They haven't been given their due. Okay, there appears to be a disparity in the genuine, the really intent and spirit of the apology resolution, which I'm really focusing on, and of course, filed. There's so much for you to read there.
And I should mention also that if you, for any reason, can't scan the QR code, you can go to likomartin.org, and that it's basically a blog post. So that has all those documents linked into it, and also some of Leon's. So you can do that.
The
maybe
link is at the bottom.
Leon's and then we might have a moment for a question.
Yeah.
The link is at the bottom too, right, for the documents. The bottom of the page. The link is at the bottom of the page for the documents.
Yeah. Mahalo.
You find it very interesting reading. As an example, I've studied the Tokyo trials particularly. Okay, what do you do? The situation in Hawaii, you don't have conventional warfare. The application of the Nuremberg principles is out of place in Hawaii. What applies in Hawaii? You must look to the Tokyo trials, where you're dealing with the criminality in the domestic law, which evolved into the International Criminal Court. As an example, on Mauna Kea, when I was going to go up there, I prepared a document basically informing the officers who were there of what they don't even know they're involved in. Okay, and it's written in a form. You can go to that form and you can apply it. It's not just applies to me. It can be applied in so many dimensions. Okay, and did it have an effect? I think it really did have an effect on Mauna Kea. Because when Lino came up the next morning, I asked him if he had read the document, and
He was the head of the law enforcement.
and he did read it. And the care that was given was extraordinary. And of course, it did not go forward. And then the whole case was dismissed because what became evident was that the judiciary had not been following due process in so many cases. They were just blanking instead of following due process of law where you had to go and the officer had to fill out. They ended up not doing this. So you do that for 60 years.
Okay.
You look at the prisons and you look at what happened to the people. So this is, just.
So, mahalo, Liko. I know there's so much to say, and it's so hard that we have a hard stop in 10 minutes, but, okay. I think Leon has something to pass up, maybe one very short comment.
To answer your question,
Okay, yeah.
this is a flyer that basically tells a little bit, tells our story, but it also talks about our future and basically where we're going. It's a summary of things, but it is really an invitation for people to get involved. We don't all have to be lawyers. We don't all have to understand all of the ins and outs of what's going on at the international level. What we need to do is look at what are our best talents, what are our gifts, what can we bring to a nation. That's where you need to concentrate, because the nation is coming back. The question is, how are we going to participate in the nation? And how are we going to build a nation that really looks like what our forefathers had created for us? How can we replicate that? And we can do it because we're their descendants. We have that same talent. We have that same mana that has stuck with us. So we need to start to think in a positive way that we can do this. Many people are stuck, of course, in an attitude that we're incompetent or we're not, this is too big for us. We need to get over that. We need to basically start to think that our forefathers did it. We have a lot more advantages than they had then. We have more tools and things like that. We need to apply ourselves into thinking of how we create our nation and how we participate in that creation. And it's not complicated. Talk about farming. If farming is your kuleana, that's what you do. You farm, and you do that to the best of your ability. If it's making music, you make music. Whatever there is, just find the place where you can contribute to this, the whole, to this community, to this āINA, and to our people.
Man.
Actually, we're going to have to wrap. So maybe you can say if it's like you have 3 sentences.
3 sentences. Well, we're used to that.
And then after that, we're going to have a question and answer, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that. So.
When I went to my phone and I went to Grandma and Grandpa Wikipedia, I typed in iolani Hale. And then I knew why I've come here, why we're here. In relationship to Professor Desires' letter, when he says, which requires the United States to administer Hawaiian law. That's why we are here. Okay? Because this is where we restore ourselves.
I think we have one question, one person who would really like to ask a question.
Yeah, I am interested in what kind of work have you guys seen being done in uniting the people of Pacifica behind all our causes, but our cause specifically?
Leon.
Yeah, I'm very encouraged by what I see going on in our community. Not only, there's a lot of creative thinking and there's a lot of movement going toward restoring our agriculture, for instance. There's, just really amazing stuff going on, and protecting our ocean, and all of these types of things. These are the things we really need to concentrate on. So the good thing is that a lot of people already feel called into these areas, and Hawaii is actually a leader internationally because of our concern for the things that really matter to our planet and to ourselves. So we just need to keep on doing that.
And you've also actually worked with the Pacific nations in unity, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, So that's been very, very important. Mahalo. So, one more question.
Aloha, mahalo for having this panel discussion. Just a quick question. Given the fact that a lot of us, have learned this new information and have come about the truth in a way that wasn't really easy. Let's just say it was a rude awakening. How is it that you, as an artist or art artist, are able to, I guess, calm yourself and find an avenue and a channel to express your truth and feeling on the subject matter as you understand it?
How do you calm yourself? How do you find peace inside of yourself while doing all of this very difficult work?
I don't know. It's just that the music is very natural, and so it's what I do, and so I don't get upset over that. I really don't get really upset about the situation either, because I see that we're progressing and we're getting to a point where we're actually going to emerge from the observation and from the question is, what do we do with that opportunity?
Right.
How do we change our future?
Right. Okay, mahalo. And, I think maybe we can. No others. Okay, so I have a question real quick for you. As a neutral nation, do you think that the other nations of the world are seeing the value of what that would mean? If Hawaii, rather than a center of militarism, was a center of peace, do you think that other nations of the world see that value?
Yes, and the idea of peace, of course, is very prominent. There are only a few countries that are participating in making war. The rest are really very neutral. All of the Pacific, for instance, the Pacific countries, except for those that the U.S. has dragged into their sphere of influence, like Hawaii, Guam, and Micronesia, Marshall Islands. But the rest are, in fact, the Prime Minister of Fiji 2 years ago proposed an ocean of peace. And so that has been adopted, or is in the process of being adopted by the Pacific Islands Forum, which is all 17 nations in the Pacific, adopting the ocean of peace. Solie Hale was, really a major contributor or participant in the nuclear-free Pacific.
Nuclear-free and independent Pacific.
Yeah, right. And so that is actually the policy in the Pacific, nuclear-free. Hawaii and a few other places are the only ones that have nuclear weapons. So Hawaii can get back in. One of the amazing things was Kalakaua, and I actually commemorated the second. Anyway, all along, they were all very conscious of their family in the Pacific, and that they all saw that there was a responsibility to work together as the Pacific. Or as Oceania. And so Kalakaua actually started a confederation, and there's a fabulous book written by Leon Siu about Hawaii being a major leader in this whole idea of a peaceful, decolonized Pacific. And I was in Geneva, and I was in Bern, Switzerland, at the archives, Swiss archives, and I found one of Kalakaua's letters, basically telling the nations of Europe to back off from colonizing the Pacific. And basically the Hawaiian Kingdom was heavily fighting a heavy protest against colonization of the Pacific. This is 1882. Anyway, no, 1874. Anyway, it was sometime quite early on. So yes, the other countries are waiting for Hawaii to join up with them, because they're already on this trajectory of peace and
Mahalo. You know, we're up against our hard stop right now, so we're going to have to end here. But mahalo, and I think we're able to go downstairs. Yeah, so we can people can talk story too once we get down there. There was a request that we close out with one song together. Yeah. So if we can, maybe we can.
The title of the meeting.
Yeah, maybe we should probably play
All of Life
All of Life Stand Together. Yeah.
and dedicated to Don Ho. Because Don Ho had asked me to write a song, so I go back to my model, back to my old G, my grass shack. And he asked me, Liko, you give us a song. I will just sing right here. And 4 hours later, I went down to the dressing room and delivered it all by Stand Together. Unfortunately, the recordings that he made with Hawaiian choir have never surfaced. And that song.
I think KC's the answer.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Wow. That would be wonderful, because that's a true story. And of course, Don Ho, what Don Ho said to the congressional committee, he says, he's observing everybody come in and testify, and he says, you know, it seems like we're coming here as beggars, and that's problematic for me. But there's been, you know, so that was Don. Don, people loved people. His business was all about people, caring. Everybody from the person who emptied the rubbish, they had a mortgage to pay. He took his cut and the rest went there. And Don Ho totally supported the trips to, totally involved with this. As I travel from place to place, some familiar and some are strange, to hear the ancient chantings of our home. As I listen to the stories, my eyes have seen the glories. So let us raise our voice in song to save our land. All the mighty stand together. It is now and forever. Raise your voices and hold your banners high. Shall stand as a nation to guide the destiny of our generations, to sing and praise the glory of our land. From within some walls and cities of refuge, we learn the sacred ways. Upon white people's valley floor, the ancient battles rage, and from the barren slopes of Kahana Bay and shores of Kahana Bay, we shall claim our lands, the barking sands, the valleys of Kahana Bay. Stand together, it is now and forever, to raise your voices and hold your banners high. And we shall stand as a nation to guide the destiny of our generations, sing and praise the glories of our land. From the fiery gate birds call. And old Tutukane and Mauna Kea send their love to all, to stand as one beneath the sun. Blessings from Haleakala and how sweet Kahala, and by Ale Ale where the greatest waters fall. Hawai loa, uli te kako, ukame aloha kie, ukame ka iole. Oni makako, oni makako, alana kila na kini eola, eola, eola na kini. So Hawaii stands together, it is now and forever. Raise your voices and hold your banners high, 'cause we shall stand as a nation to guide the destiny of our generations, sing and praise the glories of our land. To sing and praise the glory of our land. Well, thank you for coming. Everybody, just so we're back. That's the way I think, you know. Grandma and Grandpa Wikipedia, they said, go home. and I wanted to mention too, because in Alfred Desires' letter, he says that the laws should be running the laws of the Hawaiian Kingdom. Well, what a better place to start. And I didn't quite know how it's going to occur, but this is the place to start. And in that way we will learn and we will be able to live in peace together and follow the Buddha's law and be kind to each other.
If you guys are hungry, please join us for some food. Thank you on behalf of
Yeah.
Please join us on July 27th at Thomas Square Park. Come down, grab some food, please. Mahalo to Brianna, to all the staff. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I think what is it? The guys, the Asha group took over and they helped redevelop it. Yes, it's been right now. Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I don't know if it's one time
Got some sandwiches downstairs.
Services. Yeah.